Hello, everyone, and good morning. Welcome to our live feed update for what's the date? October 6th. I had a thing messed up there, but I am your host, Taryn Armstrong, and joining me today is Lavina. How you doing, Lavina?
Hey Taryn, it's okay. You're not the only one who had brief technical difficulties today. So did I. We're all good though. We're here. We're here to talk about Big Brother. And even though, the feats have been slightly slower, it's obviously it's going to happen like that when there's less people in the house. So I'm just excited to be here.
Yes. Well, we are here to update you on everything that happened yesterday on the Big Brother 22 live feeds. It was day 62 in the house, and not a whole lot to update, and that's because the one conversation I was telling you guys to look out for, it did happen, but it happened in probably the least exciting way that it could have in terms of this week. So we'll talk about that and everything else that went down, but not a whole lot. Not a whole lot. We
Not a
started the
whole lot
day.
at all.
Yes, we started the day with Christmas and Memphis. They talked. Christmas again talked about wanting Cody out next week. That Cody should go before Nicole, especially if he doesn't end up winning that veto. They have to take that shot. Memphis does push back a little bit. I do not believe that Memphis is fully down to take this shot yet because he still feels comfortable with Cody taking him at the final four, whereas Nicole, he's not sure. But he doesn't push back enough to say no to Christmas. He's willing to say, like, yeah, I mean, we'll talk about it. Well, yeah, sure, let's do that.
Right. And I feel like, I don't know, I feel like the way that his body language was, I was like making breakfast and I was watching this. I was very kind of put off by it in the sense that I feel like towards the end game, Memphis could potentially do something to, I mean, I'm not to us, but to them, crazy like that. I could see him getting into power and getting a little bit power hungry and saying, "I'm the head honcho now." You know what I mean? I feel like that's just very Memphis like, at least for this season, more so. So I feel like it's definitely in the realm of possibility. But on the other hand, we could definitely see him just saying, "You know what, Christmas, you're annoying. I'm gonna cut you," because he said that before.
Yes, he is very annoyed by Christmas, which,
Very much.
you know. Um, Cody and Enzo have a conversation. This is the conversation that yesterday I was telling you guys to watch out for because Memphis talked to Enzo about maybe having Cody up on the block next to Christmas or next to Nicole in order to ensure Nicole went home because he's not sure how to convince Cody to send Nicole out over Christmas. And Enzo, I was telling you, he might tell this to Cody, and this might get Cody's head spinning a little bit about maybe it's not the best idea in the world to keep Christmas this week. However, when Enzo tells Cody about his conversation with Memphis, he leaves out a lot of the stuff that would have convinced Cody to maybe keep Tyler around. So he says that he feels like 99% Memphis would never put you on the block. It's going to be Christmas and Nicole. I mean, it's maybe possible that Enzo interpreted that conversation that way, but that's definitely not how I interpreted that conversation. This feels to me like Enzo deliberately leaving information out because I don't know exactly why, but he wants to protect Memphis maybe in this spot, or maybe he wants to make sure Tyler goes home. I'm not entirely sure why he's leaving this information out, but he is. And he says that he doesn't want to put Memphis on the block if he wins HOH next week. He wants to do Christmas and Nicole. And this might be the reason why that Enzo is hiding this information, because if he wins the HOH, he doesn't want to have to put Memphis up. He doesn't want to burn that relationship. He wants to do Christmas and Nicole. And Cody keeps telling him you can't do that because Memphis might win the veto and use it on Christmas, and then I'm up on the block and I could go home. And so Enzo may be trying to, as a way of convincing Cody it's okay to put up Christmas and Nicole if Enzo wins, he may be hiding the information that Memphis might put Cody up on the block just to make sure that Nicole gets sent home.
For sure. And if I could get into Enzo's head, Lord, that's a very crazy and colorful place. I would love to get into there. But I think that on one end of things, he's looking at the possibility of Cody, going home. But I guess let me start with the first more, logical reason. I think that people are seeing, we've talked a lot during the season about, the big bad of the week, the big bad in the house. And I think that right now, Tyler, and obviously Tyler and Christmas are the big bad. But when you put Tyler and Christmas next to each other, it's like, come on, you guys, who are we going to vote out, Tyler or Christmas? It seems like, a lot of the times Christmas wins power. It's because, well, it was kind of like thrown to her a little bit. You know what I mean? So I think that's how they're seeing it. As far as like the people in the house perspective, I think that they might just want to make sure that Tyler goes home because they feel like he might, beast out the competitions towards the end game in particular, or he's just a beast socially. I mean, they're right about it, but either it's that situation or, hey, he insinuated, yeah, man, or him being Enzo, he insinuated, hey man, he might not put you up. He's probably not going to put you up. But did he say 100%? He did not say 100%. So that could be a little bit of a wiggle room to say like, I had no idea. Come on, man. I don't know what you're talking about. And then cut him out. You never know.
Yeah. And, the way things have been playing out, it seemed like it made more sense for Enzo to keep Tyler at first, just because Tyler is very loyal to Enzo. But the way that things are shaping out, it might actually work for Enzo that Tyler's going home, and he might see that, and he might want to make sure that continues to happen, just because Enzo's pretty much lock safe next week, the way that things are playing out now. And then in the final four, he should be safe no matter what as well, which means he has a place in the final three with Nicole, Cody, Memphis, or Christmas. Christmas would be worst case scenario there as long as Memphis is there, but if Memphis is not there, then Christmas is best case scenario there. So it plays out pretty well for Enzo as long as he's able to win a jury vote. And so he may also be trying to protect that path, where Tyler is also willing to take Enzo to the final two, but there's so many people that it's just like, do I need Tyler, one of the people more likely to beat me in the end? Do I need Tyler, who might disrupt some of the stuff that's going on? Tyler, who, if I vote to keep him this week, might ruin my relationship with Memphis and then break up that thing. So I can see that angle of it as well. But it's also Enzo, and I can never be completely sure that Enzo is actually doing strategic things and not just kind of like, yo. You know what I mean?
Exactly. Just yo, period. That's all he says. I love that. Yeah, I feel like, with everybody being so willing to take him to the final two because they think that he hasn't done anything, I think that he could probably get rid of Tyler this week, without it really affecting his game all that much. Because let's say there's a scenario of Tyler and Enzo in the final two at the end. I feel like there's a good chance that he could lose against Tyler because, like I said, Tyler is viewed as this like huge player. And I think that if he were to get to the final two, he would probably win this time, depending on who he's sitting next to, obviously. But again, if he's sitting next to Enzo, I'm not sure if the jury at that point in time, I don't know what's going to change from then to like now to then. But I feel like they're not going to give him the votes just because I've heard them say so many times, is Enzo even really insinuating, is Enzo even really doing anything? Just from the in-house perspective. But obviously us as fans, we see everything from the outside. We're seeing a lot more, but.
Yeah, I am inclined to believe that Tyler would probably beat Enzo in the end at this point. Enzo is playing the game in a way that is, make a big move, yo. You do it.
Right.
You do it. I would totally do it, but like I've got like a stomach thing right now, so you should do it for now. I'll do it after, yo. And he's really like working to make sure that big moves, or trying to make big moves, or have big moves be made around him, but not have to do them himself, so that he doesn't blow up his own spot. And that's That's actually a pretty effective strategy for getting far in the game if you're able to do it well. But the tricky part comes at the end when he's explaining what he has done in the game. He might have some difficulty with the jury in terms of like, what have you done? And if he's sitting next to Tyler, then I think Tyler's the guy who did take a shot at Cody and Nicole, who did ultimately probably end up taking Cody and Nicole out if Tyler's there in the end, which like at this point he's not going to be. But if he did survive this week, then he's probably the person who took out Cody. And Enzo's the one that squashed the big move in the triple eviction, that didn't take out Danny, that didn't take out Cody. I definitely think Tyler would have a huge edge over Enzo in the final two. And ultimately that just kind of encourages Enzo to take out Tyler.
For sure. The first thing I think about, and I'm sorry to you, I'm sorry to the chat, but the first thing I think about is unfortunately BB19, when Cody Nixon said that he kind of respected Josh a little bit more than Paul, because I think he said something along the lines of he wasn't hiding behind the curtains and he was very upfront with everything, but Paul was hiding behind, what were their names? Alex and Whistlenut and Josh and Christmas. And he didn't like that. And I think that obviously very much influenced the jury with Elena and Mark coming in as well. So I think that the dynamic of the show, as we've talked this to death all season, this is the new meta of how the jury wants to vote for their person. They want to vote for competition wins. They want to vote for people that played very upfront. So
yes, and Grim Reaper in the chat says, but Enzo has the same problem with Cody and he's still willing to go to the final two with Cody. It makes no sense. It does make some sense, actually. I don't know if I agree with it, but it makes sense. And Enzo's going to talk about it later with Tyler. We can kind of skip to that a little bit here, that Enzo basically feels like Cody has rubbed the jury the wrong way, and that the jury is going to be bitter against Cody, and that they're going to vote for Enzo over Cody. And he feels that way because he had lengthy discussions with Devon and Kevin about that very thing. Kevin talked endlessly about how he doesn't want to vote for Cody, and he has this great connection to Enzo. And I said at the time, Devon's speech when she was evicted, talking about like the people that were straight up with me are the people I'm going to vote for. Kevin spending so much time talking to Enzo about being mad at Cody. I talked about at the time how those things are only going to encourage people like Enzo and Danny, who were the two recipients of those conversations at the time, to want to take Cody to the final two, thinking that they can beat him. And I think that's exactly what's happening. And Enzo is basically saying exactly those words to Tyler later in this day, that he feels like Cody has rubbed the jury the wrong way. And that is going to encourage him to take Cody to the end.
I think it could be a realm of possibility. I think it could be reality, but it's hard to say. We haven't even had any. I don't even know if we're going to be getting any jury segments this season because of the health crisis and stuff. But I'm not sure if the jury is going to remain in the same headspace as they were when they left the house, especially because we're talking people like Devon who are decently early jury. And I feel like early jury members are more likely to, have time to think about things. Maybe they're given DVDs of, competitions. I don't really know what's going on in the jury house right now, but they have more time to think and they have more time to talk. Maybe she's talked to Ian and Ian said, hey man, I feel like Cody's the head honcho in the house. I feel like he's running that alliance. He's running circles around all of us. You never know. So it could go either way. They could just remain really pissed off at him, as Enzo is believing that it's going to happen, or they're going to say, Enzo is a great guy, the Casey situation. Enzo's a nice guy. Let's vote for him. But I mean, he's done more than that, but in the jury's perspective, I mean.
Yeah, and this is something that I've been trying to do some research into, sort of the cause of these big alliances doing so well in the game, and I do feel like one of the major factors is the jury. That in recent years the jury has been rewarding the sort of like loyal, soldier play. The don't make big moves, don't betray people, don't lie, just sit there and be nice, get lucky, make it to the final two, you'll win the game. And when the jury rewards that, it encourages future players to play that way. And I think that we're seeing that happen within a single season as well, where Davon, Kevin, even Ian, even the way Ian was talking about the game prior to his eviction, outside of his formula talk, really encourages players to stay loyal to their group and take the big players to the end, because those big players have pissed people off and they'll be able to beat them in the end. And that helps glue people together, and it helps prevent them from making big moves to build their own resume, because they don't need their own resume. All they need to do is be sitting next to the person who's most likely to be sitting in the end anyway. So they just need to buddy up to them the best. And it's a competition between Enzo and Nicole, who can be Cody's best buddy, because that's the person that's going to win the game.
I think another thing too is that you're relying on a large alliance to get them in the jury, because not all of the alliance members are going to be sitting in the final two. Not all of the alliance members are going to be winning $500,000. I think that the mindset, and at least in the back of their heads, is get my friends to the jury. They will vote for me. Maybe, hopefully, I'm sitting next to somebody who's not technically in that alliance, because Enzo, when I think about this is very like, maybe I'm reaching, but that's my specialty. I think that, Enzo's not technically in the committee. And if Cody's thinking, hey, let me get Enzo and let me sit next to him in the final two. And then they're saying, or he's thinking that the jury's saying, let's vote for the person who was in our alliance. So they're all going to vote for Cody is maybe what he's thinking. You can go crazy in that house and think this stuff. So yeah, just tossing it out there.
Yeah, and the thing is, I think it matters less the actual result and more the perception of what the result will be. That if the perception is that by being a loyal soldier you have a great chance to win the game, then it's going to encourage that kind of gameplay. And I think we've seen a lot of it this season. But Cody and Enzo continue their conversation. Cody tries to warn Enzo away from not putting Memphis on the block if he wins the HOH, because Enzo is saying, if I win HOH, yo, I want to put up Nicole and Christmas, yo, that's it. And then I tell Memphis, like, you can't use the veto, yo, I don't think he will, yo, that's it. But Cody's like, yeah, but he could be getting cute with this, like he could be trying to make sure he's staying off the block just so he's able to use the veto and take me out. We shouldn't take that risk. And Enzo's like, I don't think so, yo, but I guess we'll talk about it if I win, yo, that's it. It's again so clear that like Enzo does not want to do this, and he probably doesn't even want to win if he doesn't have to, because he doesn't want to be put in this spot where Memphis is telling him don't put me up and Cody's saying put Memphis up. We saw him in a similar situation in this veto competition, which I believe he probably threw, considering he timed out in it. Maybe he just did suck, but we've seen him throw competitions before. I think it really feels to me that he will not, at the very least, not try his hardest in this upcoming HOH, which is not good for Cody.
Right. And again, going back to the jury conversation, I don't know if that's good for his, overall resume either, because thinking about it, if he's just going to be throwing multiple competitions, they're not going to respect that. They love their competition wins and this new meta of Big Brother. So I don't know if that could be in his best interest. I can see where he's coming from strategically, but if he's not willing to make any move at all, then I'm not sure, especially in the end game, that is, I'm not sure how that's going to look in the end game.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And that's again the thing, like, it could come off as like, oh, he was scared to, have to deal with scenarios where different people wanted him to do different things. And so he avoided those by not winning. And, some people might see that as good gameplay and some people might see that as, what did he do? He did nothing.
Right.
So we'll just,
and I will say too, I will say too, as a perspective from a fan, it's not fun to watch either because I'm like, Enzo, you're talking, you're saying all this stuff in the DR. I want to make a big move, yo, all that stuff. And I'm like, yes, I want to root for Enzo. And I think I am rooting for Enzo, but I want to see him do what he's saying he wants to do, but I want him to do it. I don't want him to rely on Cody to do it or rely on Nicole to do it or something.
Mm-hmm.
Come on, Enzo.
Well, he says at the Final Four, he would definitely make a big move. Yeah, that's it.
But will
Definitely make a
he?
big move at the Final Four. Yeah, take out Memphis. So Memphis, Tyler talks to Memphis. He's trying to feel him out with his vote. Memphis tells him, "Yeah, I'm leaning toward voting you out. Look, dude, you're a beast. You scare me. I think the only way that I win this game is by winning the next couple of comps, and I don't want to have to compete against you. I don't want to have to compete against you. If they don't come for me in the next couple of weeks, they're idiots. They'd have to come for me. So I have to win these competitions, and that means I have to take you out, man. And I'm sorry. This is Memphis's MO. This is what he does every single week. He's the first person to tell the person going home that he's not voting for them, and he does it by complimenting them, by saying, you're too good at this game, you're too smart, you're too much of a competitive threat, you're too good socially, whatever it is. He's got this line. We're gonna see how well it works if he makes it to the final two.
But also just the tone of voice that he says these things, and I know that this is Memphis's tone of voice in general, but he's just like, it's just like, are you being condescending? Like I'd be like, are you okay? Do you hate me? Like, what's happening here? But yeah, and it's funny because I was going to mention this about Tyler when we got to his like campaigning situation. His campaigning is so like, and I'm aware that he had that whole situation where he was like, I want to leave, I want to be put on the block, I want to save Javon and Bailey, I want to go home to Angela situation. But I just feel like he's so like doesn't care. I'm not sure if that's everybody's vibe that they're getting, but when I was watching him yesterday, I was like, okay, he doesn't care at all. I'm not feeling like Tyler, but yeah, I'm not sure. And when he was, I forgot who he was telling. Tyler was retelling the thing that Memphis saying he doesn't want to keep him to somebody. I forgot who it was, maybe Nicole. And he wasn't like, oh yeah, it was. He just kind of like. He just told me like whatever. He wasn't like upset like that. He was just like, whatever. Yeah, he said he's not keeping me. Mm-hmm. And I wrote in my notes that I found the conversation weird.
Yeah, it's a strange spot for Tyler. Like, he doesn't have a lot of drive in the game, but he also he definitely cares. Like, we've seen him break down because he lost, because he lost the veto competition. He is in that room for 15 minutes just like sulking. And he definitely cares, but I feel like there's just not a lot of drive to do anything about it. And that's kind of been like his entire season. But in the case of Memphis, at the very least, nobody is like, Memphis has a good part about Memphis's condescension, I guess, is that it feels very final. And because of that, nobody really tries to flip Memphis. And by not trying to flip Memphis, you're not putting any hopes in Memphis, and you're not being disappointed by Memphis. And so when Memphis says to you, I'm voting you out, you don't go, oh, but please, like, what if this and what if that? You just go, oh, crap. All right, well, I got to focus elsewhere then. And then at least Memphis was straight up with me. Because one of the reasons why people don't want to be upfront with the person that they're voting out is because they want to avoid the begging, the pleading, the bargaining. And typically when you tell someone, I'm leaning toward voting you out, they start pushing harder and harder, like, oh, no, but what about this and what about that? And then you're like, oh my God, like, I can't deal with this. But Memphis has been able to avoid that just by being so gruff. No, don't even try. It's not happening.
Like, he could be sitting outside with his coffee and he sees somebody who's on the block on a Wednesday and he's just like, no. Like,
they look at him and they're like, Memphis? He's like,
no,
don't.
It's not happening, man. I'm having my coffee, man. Like, it's fine. But I will say that, yeah, I'm not sure. I forgot what I was going to say, but I just find Memphis hysterical. I'm sorry.
Yeah. So Memphis is saying, if they don't come after me, they're idiots. And I like this because it's kind of setting himself up as like the big threat moving forward. If they don't come after me, they're idiots, and I'll probably have to win some comps to get to the end. This kind of sets him up as the potentially the underdog, potentially like the big threat moving forward. It's a good perception to have if Tyler goes to the jury with this perception that like, oh, they should be going after Memphis. And then if they don't, it's like, wow, how did Memphis get out of that? And if they do and Memphis wins the competitions, it's like, oh, well, he won his way there. Like, wow, how impressive. He was the underdog. He was the threat, whatever. Tyler, though, not buying it.
Yeah.
Tyler says, look, dude, I think more people want to keep you than you think. I think people see you as having rubbed people the wrong way in the jury. And Memphis is like, yeah, but yeah, I think people want to keep people like Enzo and Nicole around because, and at this point, by people, they're just straight up talking about Cody.
Who else is left?
Right. I feel like they'll want to keep Enzo and Nicole around. They haven't won anything. They haven't done anything. And Tyler says, yeah, but the jury likes them. And dude, the game is different now. The game is different. I thought I was being super nice my season. I didn't win a jury vote. Like it's not people who do nothing and win nothing can win the game. He's not saying Casey did nothing and won nothing, obviously.
I hope not.
But basically what he's saying is that like this isn't the game where, because Memphis is saying, well, they didn't do anything. The jury's going to vote on gameplay. Like I've done so much more. And Tyler's like, no, dude, like that's not how it works anymore. You can be nice. You can be nice and still not win. It's sometimes the people who did less are even more likely to win. And this is exactly what I was talking about before, where it's like Memphis plays the game he does because he's like this sort of like old school steampunk kind of gameplay. And he doesn't see the game as like, I can just sit there and do nothing and then win against somebody that people are bitter about. He plays the game like, I do need to have a resume. I do need to have, heads on my mantle if I want to win this game. And Tyler's like, dude, that's not how the game works anymore. The game works for the people like Enzo and Nicole to sit there, do nothing, get dragged to the end, and then win.
Right. And on the flip side, I feel as though if he keeps telling people or like, insinuating that he's the big threat and it's crazy how they're not taking me out, I don't feel like the people in this house and the people in the jury are not necessarily dumb enough, but like I feel like they're going to see through this the same way that Tyler is. It's not going to be like a situation of, whoa, he's saying that, or he's acting like he's a big threat. He's a big threat. I don't really foresee people believing that, and I don't think that they believed it to begin with. Even when the people of the jury were still in the house, they were just like, oh, Memphis is kind of like a jerk sometimes, or this that or the other about him. So I'm not sure about that, but again, I always say this, you never know in this house.
You really don't, especially with the jury. Juries are just so difficult to predict, which is why you shouldn't be basing your game around them. But
right.
People really often do. So Tyler's going to talk with Nicole as well. He's going to campaign to her a bit. She says she's still not 100% sure what she wants to do. She wants to check with Enzo and Cody, and she's not sure where they're leaning right now, but, probably not great. Tyler's like, I understand why you'd want me gone. And she's like, if I'm being honest, I want to get rid of both of you. And they
she was making me laugh so hard yesterday. She was honestly, Nicole Franzel made me laugh. That's huge. It was just so funny when he walked away and she was just repeating to herself, Nicole, why did you say that? Nicole, come on, you idiot, Nicole. Like that was making me laugh. That was the most entertaining thing of the day for me.
Yeah, Nicole had her own little storyline throughout the day, which was complain about Tyler some more, talk to Tyler, after talking to Tyler, be like, oh, why did I say that? And then later being like, I feel like, oh man, I don't want people to think that I'm voting Tyler out because I'm mad at him. Like, he's actually a great guy. It's really, I'm more mad at Christmas. She's the one that I'm most mad. If I was voting based on anger, I would be voting Christmas out. This is strategy that I want Tyler out. So don't think it's because I'm mad at him.
It's funny because when she was talking to the cameras and repeatedly saying, Tyler's just such a great guy. Wow, he's just so caring and so, always checks in on me. It was weird because I was thinking to myself, because we've talked about this before. Nicole, she worries about the outside perspective and what people who are watching the feeds are thinking about her, and her reputation. And it's funny because when the whole thing happened with Davon and that looked, it could potentially look pretty bad for the outside world, the vote flip. And she never really talked to the cameras as much as she did about like the way that she spoke about Tyler as much as yesterday. So I was like, where was this energy when you were super worried about, that vote flip and Davon coming to you and talking to you about, her community and such. So found that interesting, but entertaining.
Yeah. Well, Tyler says, look, the way I see it, I'm by myself. Christmas is part of a duo. That's all I can really say. I mean, that is why he should stay for most of them, but it's not going to be enough here. It's not gonna break through for Nicole. Cody's going to talk with Memphis later in the night. He tells Memphis, so Cody's still working Memphis. Cody says to Memphis, hey, I found out that Nicole and Christmas have had a final two for a long time. So that's something that like we need to watch out for next week. They might be having a sort of secret thing together. And Memphis is a little bit surprised to hear this. And this is Cody just trying to make sure that Memphis puts Nicole up on the block Christmas on the block up next to Nicole, so that so it's not him on the block next to Nicole.
Right. He's fully convinced that he would go home, but I don't believe that. I'm just not sure that that's going to happen. I don't see Memphis doing that personally.
Putting Cody on the block or sending Cody home?
Well, sending Cody home, but I mean, like I said, you never know.
Either way would be bad for Cody. Any scenario where Christmas doesn't leave next week is bad for Cody, because then Christmas is in the final four, and it means he's lost probably Nicole, and that's not great for Cody because it leaves at the final four a spot where Memphis could easily take out Cody at the final four if he wanted. Christmas definitely would. And then even if he does survive, maybe he's lost Enzo. Maybe he's the HOH, Christmas wins the veto, and Enzo goes home at final four. That's one of the few scenarios where Enzo goes home. And now Cody's in the final three with Christmas and Memphis. That's not a great spot either. So he really needs Christmas to go next week. And if Memphis wins and puts him on the block next to Nicole instead of Christmas, then that's not good, because it doesn't take Christmas out. It makes him lose Nicole.
For sure. I just don't see Memphis putting up Christmas at all. I just feel like he's just going to try to target Nicole, and I don't know if he wants to rock the boat and put Christmas up. I think there's a possibility of him putting Cody up, but I think that just Cody has to rely on no veto being used in like as a worst case scenario, and then they just all vote Nicole out. But if a veto is used, I'm not sure. I mean,
the thing is, if Cody is able to if Memphis wins HOH next week and Cody manages to genuinely convince Memphis not to put him up and to put Christmas up instead, and then they turn around, they snake Memphis, they take out Christmas, I mean, that's the winning move for Cody as far as I'm concerned. So
100%.
Yeah. So that's his path forward. That's what he's planning on doing. Is just a matter of, is Memphis, I don't even want to say necessarily dumb enough, I want to say arrogant enough that he would be willing to put Christmas up and not put Cody up even after the veto. And I do think it's possible, but I also think it's possible that he's smart enough to go, why would I risk this? Why not just put Cody on the block just in case?
And see, my mindset is always I want to give these people the benefit of the doubt, even if I, dislike how they're acting or anything, or if I'm not necessarily rooting for them. That's why I'm saying I don't know if Memphis would put his ally Christmas on the block. I'm not sure because I expect him not to, because I know it's the right move. But it's Memphis. Never know.
Never know. All right. So that's basically it. Tyler does have that conversation with Enzo. Tyler's got this last minute plan about approaching Cody, saying that Cole's flipping and all of this stuff to try and get this to work so that he stays. It's not going to work because Cody, Enzo, and Nicole are all locked in together. But he's got a last minute plan. We'll maybe see it play out. Maybe.
Right.
Probably not actually because it's so last minute, but it's not going to work. Enzo, this is when Enzo tells him that he feels like Cody has rubbed the jury the wrong way, and Tyler says, "No, dude. If Cody is in the end, he's winning. He's played an amazing game. Like you cannot rely on the jury being bitter against Cody. He's going to beat you. But you can see Enzo just doesn't believe it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure. And I'm not sure if it's going to be like a wake up call when he ends up sitting next to Cody in the final two and it happens, or if it's a situation of he finally wakes up, Tyler goes, he says, "Oh my God, yo, I want to take this guy with me," and he's barely even sat on the block to begin with. He could use that. He could use his competition wins. He could use his social strategy. He could use all of this stuff, and that's way more than I have. So he could see that and wake up and say, okay, I can't take this guy to the final two, gun for the final HOH situation, whatever the case. But yeah.
So we'll see. I mean, I do think that Enzo has pulled back a little bit from Cody. We saw that earlier in the day. He's hiding information, withholding information from Cody. And the fact that he's even having this conversation with Tyler tells me that he's thinking about this, that he was thinking he was going to beat Cody because the jury might be bitter against him. But the fact that he's talking to Tyler about it tells me that there's maybe a little bit of doubt in his mind about it. And maybe, because Tyler told him the night before, you can't beat Cody. And he didn't say anything then. And then he spent the day thinking about it, withholding information from Cody, then talking to Tyler again later in the day again. Well, here's why I think I can beat Cody. And Tyler says again, no, you can't. And so there's, a small chance that this is something that is running through his mind, and that, I still don't see Enzo taking a shot at Cody. But I could see Enzo like, oh, I accidentally ended up in the end with Memphis. I don't mind that.
Right. And it's funny because yesterday in the feeds, there was a lot of studying going on for the potential of a questions HOH or a questions competition upcoming. So there's a lot of people just sitting and thinking in their beds. That was a lot of the feeds yesterday. It was super fun. But they showed Enzo like just staring at the ceiling, like the whole, like for a good hour or so. So that part had me thinking, is this guy considering, is this guy, taking anything that Tyler has said to him to heart? You never know.
Yeah. So we'll see. We'll see. There's some possibilities here. And one of the easiest ways that he can sort of grease the track for Cody to go is by throwing the next HOH, which he kind of already wants to do. And hey, maybe Christmas wins it. Maybe the situation plays out on its own and Cody goes home next week. I feel like Enzo would be like, oh no, yo, what happened, yo? We should have kept Tyler, yo. But there might be a part of him that's like, there it is. I didn't have to do it. So I don't know. We'll see.
I think that it's probably in their best interest to throw it to Christmas. Yeah. And by them, I mean Memphis and Enzo.
Yeah. So there it is. That's what we have. Lavina, anything else you wanted to bring up from yesterday?
Not too much. I just, let's see. Let's take a look at my notes that are very, scrambled. I pretty much just said that, Tyler, that I think that Tyler's main thing that he was bringing up is the fact that, do you want to leave a duo in the game? And like we already touched on, I'm not sure if that's going to be enough for him because like we said, there's already votes locked in on him and that they're not going to budge on those votes. And I just found that interesting because tying into what I observed about Tyler and his body language and how he was acting was, I feel like there's more that he could do, but on the other side of things, it's, there's only 6 people left, and he's thinking, my bed has been made, and maybe I can just lie in it.
Tyler needs to talk to Cody and run him through the scenarios. And Tyler doesn't have all of the information, but he's a smart enough guy to like be able to run the scenarios. If he feels like Christmas and Memphis are a duo, then he can run Cody through the scenarios where they're a duo that aren't good for Cody, where Tyler is good. And if he's able to do it well enough, I think he could make some really good points, because as I've been talking about the last few days, I do think that Tyler is the better pick for Cody to stay.
Yeah.
But the problem is he's missing the key piece of information, which is that Cody believes he has a final 2 with Memphis, and that Memphis would put Christmas on the block next week. And if those 2 things are true, then those scenarios may be off enough that Cody doesn't see that what Tyler's trying to say. But the thing is, even with those things being true, even if they were true, it still might be better for Cody to keep Tyler, which is like, okay, Tyler, you do this all the time. Run through worst case scenario for you, and then run the scenarios for Cody. Try to look at it from Cody's perspective. It still kind of makes sense for Cody to keep you in the worst case scenario for yourself. Run him through those scenarios. Get his brain, jogging up to think about this again. He's largely ignored the campaigning to Cody beyond just like, dude, I'm gonna go. Nicole's not gonna keep me. And Cody's the one calling the shots, and he hasn't really tried that hard with Cody. So we'll see. I don't expect him to do it, honestly. And I think, I said before, that conversation between Enzo and Cody that happened earlier in the day, that was basically the nail in Tyler's coffin, as far as I'm concerned. We're looking at like, 95 at least % that Tyler goes home at this point. Very, very high chance that that's happening. With a call like this, with a decision like this, where it's so close, things could always change, because it does make a lot of sense for them to change. But as of right now, the momentum is so strong in this direction, it really feels very unlikely that Tyler will stay this week at this point.
We've got 2 days. I mean, not we. Tyler, you've got 2 days. If you can hear me, do something. Talk to Cody. See if you can figure something out. Give him those scenarios, man, because I think that if Memphis were to win HOH, and if he puts Christmas on that block instead of Cody, I will just about scream, because Cody's gotten away with so much stuff this season that it's like, hand this guy the win. If Memphis puts Christmas on the block and Cody doesn't touch it next to Nicole, give Cody the win. That's all I have to say.
There you go. All right. Thank you guys so much for joining us today. You can find me on Twitter at ArmstrongTaryn. I will be tweeting out the survey for tonight, 9 p.m. Eastern, the Stock Watch Roundtable that will be rating the players. We'll be talking about where we think the jury votes are going to go. I'm sure we'll talk plenty about the triple eviction. So if you want to rate these players, there's only 6 left. So it's going to be a quick rating. But you can rate them on Twitter at ArmstrongTaryn. I'll tweet out the survey after this podcast. You can also find me on Twitch, twitch.tv/Taryn Armstrong. Lavina, where can people find you?
You can find me on Twitter at LPavs with 2 S's, LPAVSS.
All right. And of course, I will also be back tomorrow morning at 11 a.m. Eastern to update you on everything that happens today on the Big Brother 22 live feeds. Thank you once again for joining us. I'll see you next time.